The starship hovered silently above the alien planet, its metallic hull reflecting the soft light of the twin suns. Commander Rylan, the human ambassador, stared at the vast landscape below, a mixture of awe and fear in his eyes. He had seen many planets in his career, but none like this. Towering crystal mountains shimmered in colors he could not name. Rivers of glowing liquid twisted like serpents across the surface. The air seemed alive, vibrating with energy. "This is incredible," he whispered to himself, gripping the edge of the observation deck. His heart pounded. First contact missions were dangerous, but this was something entirely different. He wasn't sure whether he was nervous or thrilled, or both. "Commander Rylan, sensors indicate lifeforms moving toward the landing zone," reported his assistant, Lyra. They look humanoid, but their shapes are different. Very regal." Rylan nodded. "Let's hope they're friendly." His voice was steady, but his hands betrayed his tension. Moments later, the shuttle descended onto a landing platform carved from the planet itself, glowing softly as though it had been grown rather than built. The hatch opened with a hiss, and Rylan stepped out, feeling the strange gravity tug at him differently than he was used to. A subtle hum filled the air, almost musical, almost hypnotic. From the shadows of the crystal spires, figures emerged. They were tall, taller than any human, with elongated limbs and iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with every movement. Their eyes were large and luminous, reflecting wisdom and power. At their center walked a figure who made the others seem almost ordinary. She moved with the elegance of flowing water, her presence commanding yet serene. Rylan's breath caught in his throat. This had to be the alien queen. The court had warned him about her. The queen was known across galaxies for her intelligence, her beauty, and her ruthlessness. Many ambassadors had met her, few had survived with their dignity intact. And yet, here he was, walking straight into her domain. He reminded himself to stay calm. He had a mission: establish communication, build trust, and survive. Simple enough, right? The queen's eyes met his. They were larger than any human's, a deep violet with sparks of gold. She studied him silently, tilting her head slightly as if amused. Rylan felt a strange warmth, a pull he could not explain. "Commander Rylan," Lyra whispered behind him. "Remember, be respectful. Do not do anything wrong." Rylan swallowed. "Of course," he said, even though his stomach twisted into knots. He stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty, I am honored to meet you." His voice trembled, but he tried to sound confident. The queen's lips curved into a faint smile. She said something in a language Rylan could not understand. Lyra whispered a translation in his ear, "Welcome, human ambassador. You are brave to come here alone." Rylan swallowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I meant no harm." He noticed a pause, a subtle shift in the queen's expression. And then, before he realized what was happening, he said, "If it pleases you, may I be closer to you? To serve you?" The words slipped out awkwardly, a nervous attempt at respect, but something in the translation made it sound like a proposal. The queen's eyes widened slightly, not in anger, but in surprise. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she said, her voice melodic and clear. "Yes." Rylan froze. Did she just accept? Around them, the other aliens whispered among themselves, their voices like wind over glass. Some looked shocked, others amused. The queen's courtiers were not sure how to react. Rylan's mind raced. He had not intended this. Not in a million years. He had simply misspoken. Lyra's whisper came urgently in his ear. "Commander, you just proposed." "I didn't mean to." Rylan hissed, but his voice was lost in the growing tension of the alien court. The queen stepped closer, her gaze softening. "You are different, human," she said. "Honest, brave, and foolish. I like that." Rylan's knees felt weak. He wanted to explain, apologize, retreat, anything. But the words stuck in his throat. "Your Majesty," he stammered, "I did not mean." I did not intend to. The Queen placed a slender, luminous hand on his arm. The touch was surprisingly warm, sending a shock of electricity through him. "Fear not," she said. "You have done nothing wrong. In fact, you have intrigued me." The whispers around them grew louder, curiosity and tension mixing in the air. The human ambassador, who had come seeking diplomacy, now found himself caught in a situation that defied all protocol. Rylan looked at the Queen, trying to read her thoughts. There was a glint of amusement, perhaps even approval. But there was also danger. One wrong step could lead to disaster, not just for him, but possibly for humanity's first contact mission. He took a deep breath. Then, I will honor this, whatever it means. The Queen tilted her head again, studying him. Her eyes seemed to pierce into his very soul. "Yes," she said again. "You may honor it. But know this, human, nothing here is simple. You are far from home, and yet, you may have found your place here. If you survive the trials ahead." Rylan's mind spun. Trials? He had not even survived the first moment, and already there were trials? Suddenly, a distant horn echoed across the crystal plains, a warning signal, or perhaps a test. The courtiers stiffened. The Queen's gaze remained on Rylan, unreadable. And for the first time, Rylan realized something. This was only the beginning. He had come to make contact. He had meant no harm. Yet now, somehow, he was engaged to the alien Queen. And the galaxy was watching. The corridors of the Queen's palace were unlike anything Rylan had ever imagined. They were vast, curving endlessly like living tunnels, with walls that shimmered like liquid metal. Every step he took echoed strangely, as though the palace itself was listening. A soft, otherworldly hum followed him, almost like whispers of long-forgotten secrets. Rylan could feel the eyes of the court on him, tall, luminous figures watching from balconies and alcoves. Some whispered to one another in their melodic language, others simply stared, their expressions unreadable. He felt like a small human trapped in a living maze. The Queen appeared silently, as if she had grown out of the palace itself. Her gaze met his, calm but sharp. "You are brave, human," she said. "Or foolish. Perhaps both. Do you understand what your words have done?" Rylan swallowed hard. I did not mean to cause trouble, Your Majesty." Her smile was like sunlight on sharp crystal. "Intentions matter little here. Actions are everything." Before he could ask what she meant, a figure stepped forward, a court official with multiple limbs, each ending in delicate, clawed fingers. "Human," it said in a voice that rumbled like distant thunder, "you must face the trials of worth. Only then will you be accepted or cast out." Rylan's heart skipped a beat. Trials? He had survived the journey to this planet and a mistaken proposal, but trials? He realized this Queen did not judge lightly. The first trial was simple in explanation but terrifying in execution, the trial of perception. Rylan was led to a vast chamber filled with mirrors, or what appeared to be mirrors. But as he stepped closer, the reflections shifted. They did not mimic his movements. They moved independently, twisting into versions of himself, angry, fearful, mocking. "You must walk through without fear," the Queen's voice echoed from above. "Face yourself, human." Rylan took a deep breath. Each step made the reflections laugh, jeer, or attack him. He dodged illusions of falling crystal spires and mirrored versions of himself that lunged with claws. Panic rose in his chest, but he forced himself to focus. Each step forward was a victory, a test not of strength, but of courage and clarity. Hours, or perhaps minutes, later, he emerged. His clothes were torn, sweat ran down his face, but he had passed. The court murmured. Some nodded, some frowned. The Queen's gaze was unreadable. "Interesting," she said softly. "You are not easily broken." The next trial tested intellect and diplomacy, the trial of tongues. He was placed in a hall where dozens of alien nobles spoke at once, their words incomprehensible. Some tried to confuse him, others to bait him into mistakes. But Rylan remembered his training: listen, observe, and respond with honesty. He bowed to the first noble, then spoke calmly. I may not understand your words perfectly, but I respect your intent. I will act fairly. The aliens paused. One of them tilted its head, a gesture Rylan slowly recognized as approval. Others whispered, murmuring among themselves. The Queen's eyes gleamed faintly. You handle others with patience, a rare trait. The final trial, however, was the most dangerous, the trial of survival. The court led him to a massive chamber where the floor shifted unpredictably. Lava-like streams of glowing liquid snaked across the ground. Strange, shadowy creatures slithered and lunged. Rylan realized this was a test of instinct and courage. One wrong step could mean death. Heart-pounding, he ran, jumped, and ducked, barely avoiding molten streams and snapping creatures. Sweat poured down his face. His mind screamed, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive. And somehow, through a combination of luck and quick thinking, he made it to the other side. When he stood before the Queen, trembling and exhausted, the entire court was silent. The Queen regarded him for long moments, then slowly clapped, deliberately, like a judge savoring a performance. You have survived the trials of worth, human, she said. Few would last even half as long. You have courage, intelligence, and something unexpected. I am curious to see where this will lead. Rylan bowed deeply, still catching his breath. He wanted to speak, but no words felt adequate. He realized, in that moment, that this engagement, this accidental proposal, was no longer a joke. It was a bond that demanded respect, bravery, and cleverness. As he followed the Queen back to her private chambers, a new understanding formed in his mind. He had survived the court, but the real danger was only beginning. Political games, rival factions, and perhaps even war, these were all waiting beyond the palace walls. And yet, despite the fear and uncertainty, he felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could navigate this alien world not just as a human ambassador, but as someone who had earned the attention of the most powerful being in the galaxy. The Queen looked at him from the glowing balcony, her eyes sparkling with something he could not name: pride? Amusement? Perhaps something deeper. The next phase begins soon, she said softly. Do not disappoint me, human. Rylan nodded. He could not imagine what trials awaited him next, but he knew one thing: he would survive. He had no choice. The palace doors closed behind him with a soft hum, and the alien court resumed its quiet, watchful observation. The human ambassador had entered their world by mistake, and now, he was part of it, for better or worse. Rylan's heart pounded as alarms echoed through the palace. Crimson lights pulsed across the walls, reflecting in the Queen's violet eyes. The rival faction had struck an ambush no one had predicted. Shadows moved with unnatural speed, and alien soldiers clashed in a whirlwind of blades and energy. You must stay close, the Queen commanded, her voice firm but calm. She moved like water, elegant yet unstoppable. Rylan followed, adrenaline surging. He had survived the court's trials, but nothing had prepared him for this. The corridors twisted unnaturally, shifting as though the palace itself was alive, trying to confuse intruders and him. Rylan barely kept up, dodging falling crystal spires and sudden energy blasts. Every instinct screamed, protect the Queen. Survive. A group of the rival faction appeared, blocking their path. Their weapons shimmered with deadly energy. Rylan had no weapon, only his wits, and a strange idea sparked in his mind. He grabbed a reflective shard from the shattered wall and angled it toward the attackers. The shard caught the red light from the alarms, blinding the enemy temporarily. The Queen smirked, clearly impressed. Clever, she said, moving past him effortlessly. They ran into the palace's central hall, a massive space with a high, glowing ceiling. From above, the rival leader descended, draped in dark armor, eyes like burning coals. Human, he hissed, you do not belong here. You will fail, and she will fall. Rylan swallowed his fear. Maybe I don't belong, he shouted, but I'm not letting anyone harm her. The battle began. Rylan ducked and rolled, narrowly avoiding attacks. He noticed the environment was reactive, crystals resonated with motion, energy flowed along the walls. An idea formed: he could use the palace itself as a weapon. He kicked a crystal column, directing its energy toward the intruders. A surge of light erupted, knocking several enemies back. The queen used the opening to strike with precision, her movements faster than anything Rylan had imagined. Together, they fought not just allies, but a team forged under pressure. Yet the rival leader was cunning. He lunged at the queen, striking with lethal speed. Rylan leaped in front of her, taking a glancing blow. Pain shot through him, but he held firm. "Not today," he yelled, swinging a loose shard like a sword. The queen paused for a fraction of a second, then unleashed a surge of power that sent the rival flying into the far wall. Silence fell. The intruders were scattered, groaning in defeat. Rylan stumbled to his knees, blood trickling from a cut on his shoulder. The queen knelt beside him, placing her hand over his wound. The touch was warm, comforting, and something deeper passed between them: trust, respect, maybe even admiration. "You survived," she said softly. "Not because of strength alone, but because of courage, cleverness, and loyalty. You are more than I expected, human." Rylan tried to smile, though the adrenaline still coursed through him. I just wanted to protect you. I didn't expect any of this." The queen's eyes sparkled, almost mischievously. "You meant no harm," she said, echoing words from their first meeting. "Yet you changed everything. The galaxy may remember this day differently because of you." The palace began to settle, its walls glowing gently as if approving their victory. Outside, the alien court gathered, whispers of awe and curiosity rippling through the air. Rylan realized that his accidental proposal, the trials, the battles, they had all led to this moment. He had proven himself not just to the queen, but to an entire alien civilization. She extended her hand. "Human, will you stand by me not out of duty, but by choice?" Rylan took it without hesitation. "Yes. Always." The court erupted into soft murmurs of approval. This human, once a stranger, now held a place among the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Not through politics, not through manipulation, but through courage, honesty, and a stubborn heart. As the twin suns set over the alien world, Rylan and the queen stood side by side, gazing out over the glowing crystal plains. The future was uncertain, full of unknown challenges and dangers, but for the first time, Rylan felt he belonged somewhere truly extraordinary. And in the quiet after the battle, he understood the truth: sometimes, the smallest human, with the simplest intentions, could change the fate of worlds. The galaxy would never forget the day a human proposed, and survived.